February is the month most gardeners ignore. They sit inside, scrolling through seed catalogs, dreaming about tomatoes in July, planning gardens they'll start planting in April, and by the time they finally put seeds in the ground, they've already lost. Because the gardeners who feed their families all summer long. They don't wait for spring, they start in February. While frost is still biting the ground, while snow melts in patches across the yard. While everyone else is still planting, they're already planting, and here's what nobody tells you. The seeds you start this month will determine whether you eat from your garden for 3 months or 6. Whether you harvest in waves or all at once. Whether you run out of food in August or keep picking until the first frost. February isn't too early, it's the perfect time. And if you miss it, you'll spend the rest of the year catching up to gardeners who understood something you didn't. Timing isn't just important, it's everything. So here are the 17 seeds you must plant in February to feed your family all summer long. Let's start with the foundation. Number 1, leeks. Most people think leeks are fancy, something you see in restaurant dishes. Something you don't really need, they're wrong. Leeks are one of the most reliable, cold-hardy, productive crops you can grow. And when you start them in February, they grow thick as your wrist by fall and stand in the garden through winter. They don't rot, they don't freeze, they don't quit. They just wait in the ground until you're ready to pull them. Which means fresh vegetables in December, in January. In February of next year, when nothing else is producing. Fill seed trays with potting mix, so the seeds on the surface. Barely cover them, keep them warm, around 65 degrees. Within 2 weeks, you'll see thin green shoots. When they're about as thick as a pencil lead, transplant them into deeper trays. Space them to inches apart, then comes the trick. When you transplant outside, dig a deep hole with a dibber 6 inches down, drop the leek seedling in. Don't fill the hole with soil, just water it. The water settles the roots, and as the leek grows, the hole gradually fills in, creating that long white shaft that makes leeks so valuable. Plant them in February, and by autumn, you'll have leeks that weigh a pound each. Number 2, onions. If you only grow one crop this year, grow onions. Because onions are the foundation of almost every meal you cook. Soups, stews, stir-fries, sauces, you use them constantly. Most people plant onion sets in spring because it's easier. But here's the problem, sets produce small onions. They don't store as long, and they cost 10 times more than seeds. Starting from seed in February produces bigger bulbs, better storage, and costs almost nothing. So seeds indoors in trays, keep them near a window. Around 65 degrees. When the seedlings develop their second leaf, transplant them into another tray, 2 inches apart. Harden them off in March, then transplant outside in early April. By late summer, you'll have onions the size of baseballs. Cure them in the sun, store them in a cool, dark place. And they'll last until next spring. One planting in February, a year's supply of onions. Number 3, tomatoes. This is where most gardeners make their biggest mistake. They wait until April to start tomatoes. Or worse, they buy transplants from the garden center in May, and then they wonder why their tomatoes don't ripen until late August. Tomatoes need 8 to 10 weeks indoors before they can go outside. Which means if you want fruit in July, you start them in February, not March, not April, February. So seeds in small pots, use seed starting mix. Keep them at 70 degrees during the day. Give them as much light as possible, a south-facing window works. But if you don't have one, invest in a grow light. When seedlings develop their first true leaves, transplant them into 4-inch pots. Bury them deep, right up to the first set of leaves. Tomatoes grow roots along the buried stem, which makes them stronger. By the time frost danger passes, you'll have stocky plants a foot tall, already flowering. And while everyone else is still transplanting tiny seedlings in June, you'll be picking ripe tomatoes in July. Number for peppers. Peppers are even slower than tomatoes. They take longer to germinate, longer to grow, longer to produce, which is exactly why you start them in February. The process is almost identical to tomatoes. But with one critical difference: heat. Peppers need warmth to germinate. Not just warmth, heat, 75 to 80 degrees. Put them on top of the refrigerator or use a heating mat. Once they sprout, give them maximum light. Transplant into larger pots as they grow, and don't rush them outside. Peppers are tropical plants. Temperatures below 50 degrees make them shut down. Wait until nights are consistently above 55, then transplant into the warmest spot in your garden. Start them in February and treat them right. They'll produce from midsummer until the first frost. Number 5. Eggplant. Eggplant is the most heat-loving vegetable in the garden. It needs even more warmth than peppers, even more time to grow. Which means starting it in February is mandatory if you want a harvest before frost. Follow the same process as peppers. High heat for germination, maximum light after sprouting. No rush to transplant outside. Eggplant is slow, maddeningly slow. But when it finally starts producing, it doesn't stop. Each plant will give you 6 to 10 glossy purple fruits. Start them in February, pamper them indoors. Transplant when soil is warm, and by August, you'll understand why it was worth the wait. Number 6. Celery. Most gardeners don't bother with celery. They say it's too difficult, too finicky, too much work. They're half right. Celery is challenging, but not because it's complicated. It's challenging because it needs time, lots of time. Celery started in February will be ready to harvest in late summer, so seeds indoors at the end of February. Barely cover them, they need light to germinate. Keep them at 70 degrees and be patient. Celery is notoriously slow to sprout, 2 weeks, sometimes 3. When seedlings are large enough, transplant into individual pots. Harden them off in late spring, then transplant outside into rich, composted soil. Here's the secret: celery is basically a marsh plant. It needs more water than almost anything else in your garden. Keep the soil consistently moist, never let it dry out. Do that and celery grows into tall, crisp stalks that taste nothing like the watery garbage from the grocery store. Number 7. Cauliflower. Cauliflower has a reputation: difficult, temperamental, prone to failure. And honestly, it's all true, but the reason cauliflower fails isn't because it's inherently hard. It's because people don't start it at the right time. Cauliflower needs to grow without interruption. Any stress, any check in growth, and it forms tiny premature heads. Starting in February gives it the long, steady growing season it needs. Sow seeds indoors, keep them warm and moist. Transplant into cold frames as they grow, then move them outside in spring. 18 inches apart in rich, well-fed soil. Start them now and never let them stop growing. You'll harvest perfect heads in early summer. Number 8. Lettuce. Winter lettuce varieties started in February in a cold frame will give you fresh salads in early spring when store lettuce costs $5 a head. These aren't the same varieties you planned in summer. Summer lettuce bolts in heat. Winter varieties are bred to tolerate cold. To grow slowly through short days. Sow seeds in trays or broadcast across a bed in your cold frame. Barely cover them. Lettuce needs light to germinate. Thin to 6 inches apart or harvest as baby greens. By the time your body is craving fresh greens after months of stored root vegetables, you'll have lettuce ready to cut. Number 9. Spinach. Spinach is one of the most cold-hardy vegetables you can grow. It survives frost, it survives snow, and when you start it in February in a cold frame, it grows quickly. Unlike lettuce, which is mostly water, spinach is packed with iron, vitamins, and minerals. Sow seeds ½ inch deep, thin to 4 inches apart. Harvest by cutting outer leaves while letting the center continue growing. One planting can give you multiple harvests over several weeks. Number 10. Kale. If you only grow one green, grow kale, because kale is virtually indestructible. It tolerates heat, it tolerates cold, it tolerates poor soil. And it's one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Start seeds indoors in February. Transplant outside in early spring when they're 4 to 6 inches tall. Space them 18 inches apart, then harvest by cutting outer leaves. The center keeps growing, producing new leaves for months. A single planting in February will give you kale from late spring through the following winter. Number 11. Broccoli. Broccoli is a spring crop, which means it needs to be started in winter. Wait too long and the heat will cause it to bolt. Start seeds indoors in February. Transplant into cold frames as they grow. Move outside in early spring, 18 inches apart. Broccoli forms a main head first. Harvest that when it's tight and firm. But here's the secret. After you cut the main head, the plant produces side shoots for weeks. One planting gives you multiple harvests throughout spring. Number 12. Peas. Early peas started in February will be ready to harvest in late spring. And there's nothing quite like fresh peas picked straight from the vine. So sweet, so tender in mild climates. So peas directly outside in February under close. In colder areas, start them in deep pots, space them to inches apart in double rows. Provide support for them to climb, and here's the bonus. Peas fix nitrogen from the air through bacteria in their roots. After harvest, cut the plants at ground level. Leave the nitrogen-rich roots in the soil to feed the next crop. Number 13. Broad beans. Broad beans are one of the hardiest vegetables you can grow. They survive temperatures down to 10 degrees in mild climates, sow them directly outside in February. In colder areas, start them in pots. They produce fresh beans in late spring or early summer, right in the gap when winter crops are finished. Like peas, broad beans fix nitrogen, improving soil while they grow. Number 14. Potatoes. February is the time to chit potatoes, which means setting seed potatoes in a light, frost-free location where they'll develop short, sturdy sprouts. Chitting gives your potatoes a head start, earlier harvests, higher yields. Choose certified disease-free seed potatoes. Place them in egg cartons with the end that has the most eyes facing up. Keep them in bright light around 50 degrees. In 6 to 8 weeks, they'll have strong sprouts about an inch long. Then they're ready to plant outside. Early varieties planted in March will be ready to harvest in June. Number 15. Shallots. Shallots are planted like garlic, but they produce clusters of small, mild, sweet bulbs that store even better than onions. Plant individual shallot bulbs in February. Space them 6 inches apart. They'll grow through spring and summer, multiplying into clusters of 6 to 12 bulbs per original bulb. Harvest when the tops die back. Cure them. Store in a cool, dry location. One bulb becomes 12. Number 16. Garlic. If you didn't plant garlic in fall, February is your last chance. Fall-planted garlic produces bigger bulbs, but February planting will still give you a harvest. Break apart a bulb into individual cloves. Plant them to inches deep and 6 inches apart. Pointed end up, mulch heavily. Harvest when the lower leaves turn brown. Cure in a shaded place. Store in a cool, dry location. They'll keep until next spring. Number 17. Cabbage. Cabbage is the workhorse of the winter garden. It stores for months. It grows in almost any soil. It tolerates cold. And if you start it in February, you'll have massive heads by midsummer. Sow seeds indoors. Keep them cool around 60 degrees. Transplant into individual pots when they have to true leaves. Move outside in early spring. Space them 18 inches apart. Cabbage grows slowly at first, but once it starts forming heads, it doesn't stop. By July, you'll have cabbages weighing 5 pounds each. Now here's what most gardeners miss. These 17 crops aren't just random vegetables, they're the backbone of a food system. The ones that store, the ones that produce for months, the ones that fill gaps when nothing else is available. Leeks and onions give you cooking foundations year-round. Tomatoes and peppers provide fresh vegetables all summer. Greens like lettuce, spinach, and kale fill the early spring gap. Peas and beans produce in waves. Potatoes and shallots store through winter. This isn't about gardening as a hobby. This is about food security, and it all starts in February while everyone else is waiting. While everyone else is planning, while everyone else is scrolling through catalogs. You're planting seeds because you understand something they don't. The growing season doesn't start in spring, it starts now.